Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is officially called to order. This is called to order for the agenda and regular meeting combined of the Monroe Township Council on this date, January 29, 2025. Would you all please, as we rise, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. You never sit in this stupid room. Will the clerk please read the Sunshine Law into the record? Oh, God. I'm down. Good. Roll call. Oh, roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Here.
Councilman Markell.
Here.
Council Siegel.
Here.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Here.
Council President Cohen.
Here. Clerk, please read the Sunshine Law into the record.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice has been provided by the following. 1. Posted on the bulletin board within the municipal building on December 27, 2024, and remains posted at that location for public inspection. 2. Printed in the Home News Tribune and the Cranberry Press on December 27, 2024. 3. Posted on the Monroe Township website. And 4. Sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. In accordance with Chapter 3, Section 17 of the Monroe Township Code, public comment shall be limited to 5 minutes unless further time is granted by the Council President.
Thank you. Proclamations and presentations for this month. Thelma Zalwitz celebrating her 100th birthday on February 3rd. And we seem to be getting an increasing number of people who are living till at least 100, which is very nice. February 2025 is American Heart Month. And again, we will be issuing a proclamation for that. And if someone would assist me, what is it, what day do we wear red? Thank you, good.
7th.
February 7th, while not on here, is Wear Red Day for Women's Heart Health. And so you may see many women walking around and wearing some sort of red garment for that. While it is not an official holiday, heart disease kills millions of women every year. We have our ordinances for second reading. 01-2025-001. It's the Supervisory Personnel 2025 Salary and Wage Ordinance for Monroe Township, Middlesex County. 01-2025-002 is the ordinance authorizing the recording of easements for municipal purposes on various municipal-owned parcels. Item 7. Ordinances for introduction. Ordinance amending Chapter 79, Police Department, Rules and Regulations by repealing Articles 1 through 5 and 8, and amending and relocating Chapter 79, Articles 6 to 7, and Articles 9 to 12 to Chapter 3, Parenthetical Administration of Government, Article 6, Department of Administration and Finance, Subsection 3-50, Division of Police. This is in line with the police accreditation update. I'm saving your voice for you this week. We're ignoring my phone. Bond ordinance providing for various roadway, sidewalk, and curb improvements by and in the Township of Monroe and the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey. Appropriating $1,700,000, therefore, and authorizing the issue of $1,619,000 in bonds or notes of the township to finance a part of the cost thereof. 01-2025-004 is that ordinance's number. 01-2025-005, bond ordinance providing for recreation improvements on open space by and in the Township of Monroe, in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $250,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $238,000 in bonds or notes of the township to finance part of the cost thereof. Would the clerk please do the resolutions for consideration?
Resolutions for consideration under the consent agenda is R1 2025-029 through R1 2025-046.
Does anyone have any resolutions they wish removed? Okay. We will now move to the resolution for consideration at the regular meeting on this date of January 29th, 2025. R1-2025-047 resolution adopting its present need and prospective need for the fourth round of affordable housing obligations. This will be conducted slightly differently than we do things to allow certainly enough time for all of the public to ask questions and to hear a presentation of what we are doing this evening. I am asking the council to please hold their questions to our planner, who is with us this evening, until we close the public comment section and all of our residents have had a chance to have their questions asked and answered. So we would please all do that. I would appreciate it. And Jen Beam is our affordable housing planner. She has been working diligently for many months, and she is going to ask that each of you enter your name and address into our records, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Is this okay?
Yes, I can.
My name is Jennifer Beam. I'm a professional planner with Leanna Savakian, and my address is 788 Wayside Road, Neptune, New Jersey.
And you're joined at the podium by?
Council President Christopher Zingaro
Thank you.
of the Township Attorney's Office, here to answer, also
Welcome
assist
to our
in
meeting.
answering any questions on affordable housing.
Thank you. Ma'am, the microphone is yours.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Jen Beam. I have been working on affordable housing matters in New Jersey for about a little less than 30 years, and have been working here in Monroe, I would say for the better part of 2024, on this affordable housing issue. Monroe understood that this fourth round was coming, especially given the recent legislation that was passed that regulates this fourth round, and as a result has gotten my office involved in this process very early on. I think we met, and Mr. Weinberg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we met initially like early summer to talk about how Monroe would approach addressing their fourth round obligation. And we started looking at property within the community that we knew either had approvals on them, were encumbered by environmentally sensitive areas, were owned by the township, or other open space, common open space for cluster development, those types of things, and started to eliminate areas of the community that would be inappropriate for high-density residential development. We also looked at areas outside the sewer service area where infrastructure wasn't readily available as well. And so we started this process long before the DCA came out with this fourth round methodology as well as the numbers. They were released by the DCA October 18th of 2024, right? October 18th-ish? Ish.
Sometime in the fall, that's right.
Okay. And the only reason I know that is because that was my due date, and so it, I'd remembered it. But anyway, so the DCA came out with a number of pieces of information. The first is they identified the housing change in each different region, affordable housing region. Keep in mind, we are in Region 3, which is Middlesex, Somerset, Hunterdon, right?
That's right.
Thanks. He's just here as moral support. And what they did was they evaluated the number of housing units, the change in the number of housing units in the region from 1999 to present day, so about 25 years. And they determined that number to be 29,009 units within the region. They then divided that number by 2.5, please don't ask me why, to get the proposed low to moderate income estimated housing units for the region, which comes out to 11,604. That's regionally. You also have to keep in mind that part of this region is in the Highlands, which doesn't generate, any development. So this 11,600 number was allocated amongst all the communities within Region 3. And Monroe was given a new construction number or a prospective need number of 751 affordable units. That's not total units, that's affordable units, which is extremely high, given the fact that this cycle or round, we're going to call this round 4, technically starts July of this year, 2025, and goes till July of 2035. However, this new legislation that was adopted last year requires municipalities, if they want to participate in this process, to start the process now. So by the end of this month, the first step in the legislation, in order for a community to, quote unquote, participate in the process and preserve immunity throughout the process, meaning no one can come and sue you, you have to adopt a resolution, which is what you have on the agenda this evening, either accepting the numbers the DCA put out or challenging them and providing a rationale and detailed information as to why you don't feel that that number is really what the community should be required to develop. So about a month after the numbers and this methodology came out, and by and large, the methodology mirrors the methodology that was litigated in the third round in Mercer County. They call it the Judge Jacobson decision. I think it was South Brunswick. Sued, and it was like a long, protracted litigation from which this methodology was affirmed or created, and they incorporated that into this legislation, basically saying, we litigated that, this methodology we're going to accept, and so that's what they put into this bill. So given the fact that we started working over the summer looking at eliminating properties and whatnot, and then the DCA came out with these numbers in October, and then after which, at the end of November, came up with hard data on the land capacity evaluation. And it came complete with a spreadsheet with parcel data, as well as a mapping tool that you can see where these properties are located within your community and evaluate them. So the first thing that my office did was marry the two data sets. So we married the data set that we had been diligently working on already, and we had successfully eliminated a number of properties for a variety of reasons. And so we married the two data sets to make sure we weren't like duplicating efforts and eliminating those properties out of the DCA data set at the outset that we already had evaluated before this information was available. And then we continue to evaluate the balance of the DCA's data set to determine its appropriateness. And this was done not just by myself and my office, but in conjunction with your office, as well as others within the township, to go through. I mean, there are definitely, this is a wealth of knowledge over here. You know, he's recited, and as is Alan, quite frankly. All I had to say was the block number, and he knew where the property was. So we went through it methodically. It took a very long period of time to go through all the parcels, as you can imagine. You know, Monroe has a lot of parcels. And we were able to reduce the number of quote-unquote developable acres from what the DCA asserted, which was 1,258 developable acres within Monroe Township. And we were able to lower that number to about 260 acres of developable land. So we were able to eliminate almost 1,000 developable acres from the equation using a variety of methods, whether they're not sewered, whether they're environmentally sensitive, like I said before, have development already on them, are owned by the township, and they're either going to be put on the recreation open space inventory or in an easement for municipal purposes. We were able to significantly reduce that number. So what do I do with that, right? So as I said, the DCA has identified in Region 3 11,604 prospective affordable housing units within the total region. And our, Monroe's obligation is calculated against that number based on 3 factors. And these 3 factors are equally weighted. Not one factor is weighted heavier than the other. The first is a non-residential valuation factor, and that's basically an analysis of the overall value of non-residential properties within the entirety of the region and then divided up amongst the different municipalities. And our share of that valuation factor is 4.78%. That is not a challengeable factor. Through the methodology, we cannot challenge that factor. They didn't give us the details and the data and the raw data to evaluate those factors. Similarly, there's a regional income capacity factor where they calculated out the overall income, change in the income level in the region, and Monroe's income factor was 2.45%. Again, that's not a challengeable number. The number that is challengeable, or the factor that is challengeable, is the land capacity factor. The DCA had Monroe's land capacity at 12.19%, and that's based on that 1,259 acre analysis. What we've done is we have modified that factor to 2.56%, so significantly reducing it from the 12.19%. And the way we went about doing this is the following. We took the starting acreage, subtract the final acreage, divided by the starting acreage, which gives you a percentage. We subtracted that percentage from 1 to give you the percent change that we're dealing with. We then multiplied that number by the 12.19% to get us to the 2.56 number. Then what you have to do is you have to average the three factors. And when I say average, we're talking basic math. Add up the three numbers, divide by 3. So it's not like there's any kind of outside, factor in there, which reduced what they call the average allocation factor from 6.47% to 3.26%. So we basically cut it in half, or a little more than half. You take that 3.26% number, which is now our average allocation, which is the average of those three factors, and you multiply that by the 11,604 affordable housing units the DCA says this region needs, which has enabled us to reduce the overall number to 378 credits from the 751. So all that being said is that we have meticulously gone through the land area factor, subtracted out pretty much everything we could possibly subtract out. And I want to say this too, because this is important to know, we were very aggressive in removing properties. So if it's outside the sewer service area, we removed it. If somebody wants to come in and try to get a particular property included in the sewer service area and run sewer however far, potentially that could affect the number moving forward. But I wanted to start as aggressive as possible because we now have to get this approved through the program, which is a group of retired judges that have been charged with overseeing this whole process, as well as Fair Share Housing Center. And technically, based on the legislation, they were not supposed to have the same seat at the table as they did in the last go-around, but no one's 100% convinced that that's going to happen. So we're still not 100% sure on how significant their role is. Go ahead, Chris.
Do you mind if I jump in, Jen?
Absolutely, I mind terribly. No, go ahead.
Council, just to give you a little context, can you hear me?
Speak a little louder, please.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Perfect.
So just to provide a little context, it's good to be here. So the amended bill, when it came out in 2024, signed by Governor Murphy, it set up several stages of this entire process. And Ms. Beam was correct that if you engage in this process, you are given a period of immunity. And each time you get to each milestone in the bill, your immunity is continued for the next stage. And so the first stage that was set out is figure out your obligation. And so that is every municipality has an opportunity by January 31st to determine, based on data, looking at math, looking at engineering, figure out what is the actual number that has to be calculated pursuant to the methodology set out in the statute. So that's step one. And that's what your professionals have been engaged with, and that is raw numbers, raw data. We get to that first step by January 31st. Every municipality submits their number to what is called the Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program. The program is really, it's within the court system. And that this resolution will be submitted, and then there's going to be a 1 month period for entities, nonprofits, developers to potentially bring a challenge. The important thing to realize is your number that you're adopting through this resolution is given a presumption of validity. And that's a really high burden. It's a really good burden. The amended statute that was adopted in 2024 sets out a very high standard. So anyone who comes in over the next month and tries to challenge this binding resolution can't just simply say, I'm challenging it. They have to come forward with calculations, with math, with data. So that's what we'll be engaged with over the coming month. After that 1 month period, there will be an opportunity for the program to review any challenges. And the next stage of this process is developing a housing element and fair share plan that comes up with the compliance mechanisms to fulfill that number. So it's a 2-step process. We're in the stage right now of getting the number correct based on the data. I think that's all I'm going to say right now. I'll turn it back.
So, just to piggyback a little bit on that, ultimately, the way the legislation is drafted, it states by June 30th of 2025, every municipality that's participating in this process has to have an approved housing element and fair share plan, along with drafts of any implementing ordinances that would come afterward. So extremely aggressive schedule, especially for municipal government. And I think that a lot of people in the business are skeptical that these deadlines are going to be maintained. However, I think it's important to note that, until they are changed through legislation or some court action, it's important that we hit these milestones that Christopher referenced, because if we miss a deadline, we lose immunity. So it's important for us to keep on track. So the housing element and fair share plan would be presented to the planning board for approval as part of a master plan element, and then come before you for endorsement. So in theory, we would have to be done with all of those things pretty much by the end of May in order to meet the noticing requirements, to get the hearing done at the planning board, to come back to you here, to get endorsed prior to June 30th. So in reality, we have until the end of May to get, the work finished. And I don't want to mislead anyone, and it has been a tremendous undertaking. So we haven't started that housing process. Right now, we've been so focused on the numbers and getting Monroe the lowest possible number that we feel is defendable, in order for us then to start the planning process. It's also important to note that in this legislation, the bonuses that were previously available for communities to take. So for example, I'm sure you've heard, if it's a rental, you get a 2-for-1 bonus. That's gone now. They don't give that 2-for-1 bonus anymore. There's a different bonus structure. They're actually pretty strict. And the majority of them are half a credit per unit as opposed to 2-for-1. So, we intend to max out to the best we can the bonuses. If you're near mass transportation, you get a bonus. If you're part of a redevelopment, you get a bonus. Supportive needs housing gets bonuses. Seniors get bonuses. There's a whole litany of them. It's a lot more broad. It's a lot broader than in the past. The other thing that's important to note is that the cap on the number of senior units has increased from 25% to 30%. It's a modest increase, but that could be helpful because a lot of communities were not able to take credit for all the senior units that they were able to capture in prior rounds because it hit that 25% cap. So there are some nuanced differences to the legislation, but the big picture, which is kind of what we're here to talk about tonight, is how we went about following the methodology to adjust the number. I recommend, and I'm sure Christopher does too, that you approve this resolution, and then it would enable Christopher and your office to file a declaratory judgment action within 48 hours to make sure we're compliant in participation, which will protect us and give us immunity as we start to work out how we're going to implement this process. One more thing. My goal is that once we get this done, right, tonight, and then the DJ action is filed, that we can start putting together, like, the framework of a housing element. You know, you have to do the demographic portion of it, which is all census-based. That all that work can be done, you know, in advance. We know we're going to be dealing with at least 378 units. We can start to come up with a plan to address that, so that at the end of March, when this dispute resolution process with the number terminates, we're not starting from zero. We've already gotten a good chunk of this done, and maybe if there's a couple units that we have to account for in addition to the 378, we're only dealing with the difference. We're not dealing with the totality, so that we can continue to aggressively move forward towards this June deadline. And then I think anybody who wants to challenge our housing element has the summer pretty much to do it, August. And then the intention of the bill is that all those draft ordinances that are in the housing element that's approved in June get formally adopted July, August, right? July, August?
Yep, that's right.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I feel like the process is extremely aggressive. I feel like there's going to be a lot of communities within the state that have significant obligations far and above what we're dealing with here, that I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to pull it together in like a month. But we'll see what happens.
2 items. First is the resolution that you're adopting, and even if it wasn't memorialized in the resolution, you would still have this ability. If there are any changes in the law, any amendments to the statutory structure, any court cases that come down that that might result in an ability to apply or to establish a lower number, you've reserved that ability to claim to exercise that right. So if the law changes in the next few months, the township can always modify its number. The second is we're referring to the number. In fact, what you're determining is your fair share obligation of the regional need for affordable housing, and the resolution establishes 2 numbers. One is your present need number. That's what are the number of units you have to rehabilitate in town. They already exist. And the second portion is your prospective need. That's new construction. If Jen mentioned that, I apologize,
Yeah, no,
but
I
just want to make sure
haven't.
that it's really establishing 2 portions of your entire fair share obligation.
So the number that I've been talking about, the 751, which got adjusted down to 378, that's your new construction obligation or your prospective need. The present need is 76 units. That's what needs to be rehabbed. Now, I don't really need to get too far into the weeds of this because we're going to work through this as the process goes. But as far as the rehab number goes, it's really just a matter of allocating money in your spending plan for a rehab program. I mean, you guys, this is not new, right? You guys have been doing this a while. And you continue to participate in the rehab program. If people come to you requesting rehab funds, they get income qualified, the funds are distributed. If the resident stays in the house for 10 years or longer, it's forgiven. If they leave prior to 10 years, they have to repay the loan to the trust fund. But if no one comes, the fact that you have the money allocated and you're participating in the program satisfies that prong. So I don't want people to panic that, oh my God, we don't have that many units to rehab. As long as we allocate the money for it, as well as engagement in the program, like of the rehab program, that satisfies that obligation, which is why we focus, especially at this point, so much on the new construction number, because that's going to be more impactful with new rooftops that are coming in. So that's kind of why we focus on that prong.
Chris, you have nothing more to add now?
No, thank you.
Okay. I'd like to entertain.
Council President, could I add one thing? Sorry, really quick before we open to public. And Jen, if I could just add to your and Chris's testimony briefly. And I know tonight we're talking about setting the number, and hopefully no one challenges it over the next month. And Chris, to your point that we are presumptively correct in the legislation is terrific. I do want to point out that the number of 378, to Jen's point, hopefully we'll be able to get, and I know they're defined differently, but hopefully we'll be able to achieve those 25% bonuses that are available, which hopefully will bring the number down closer to like 284 from the 376. And then, as many people in the room also know, when we built the Valor Point, or the Veterans Housing, which was going to be originally 37 units, we were able to apply for federal tax credits and make that a bigger project of 80 units. So we actually go into the next round with an additional 43 units sort of in our pocket. So that would bring it down closer to 241 if we got all those bonus credits, and we'll be looking for more. So I just don't want everyone to think that it would automatically be 378. Ultimately, as we get closer to the plan, this group and our professionals would be working using all the tools in the toolbox to bring that number, using all the legislation that was passed and all the tools to bring that number down, because as many people here know, for every unit that has to be built that is affordable through this process, when you see it being built and it's built by people other than the township itself, there are market rates units that are built as part of it, and that's where the numbers can get larger, because there are 4 of those for every one in previous rounds. We'll obviously try and make that lower in this round. There's no magic formula, but that has been in the past, it has been 4 to 1. So we'll be looking to make that lower as well. But with the 378 number, I did want to put a little context about the bonuses and the credits that we have going into next round. So hopefully we are at a number that's more fair and appropriate within the legislation. Thank you, Council President.
And there's other methodology, just to piggyback on that. So like a supported needs house,
Correct.
which is a single-family house with 4 bedrooms in it for, let's say, a developmentally disabled adults, right? Adults with autism, or you get credit per bedroom. So it's not like one house, one credit. You get credit per bedroom. So there are ways to minimize the number of new rooftops. There's extensions of controls. There's a whole litany of things that we can do to keep you can still get to the 378 credit number, but it doesn't need to be 378 new roofs with the market rate.
Correct.
So we're going to be as aggressive as possible to minimize the number of new rooftops as we can.
Understood. I would like a motion, please, to open the public comment section.
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. We need to relocate.
I got it.
You get it?
Yep.
Good?
You want me to sit over there at the podium?
I think so. Well, we've got to make room for,
You have to make one.
Okay. Okay.
don't run away. Okie dokie. Now, here's an extra mic. One hopes you're far better with mics than many of us.
Yeah.
This is the public comment section. It is limited to agenda items only. At this point, we really wish that our residents who are here, who wish to comment specifically and have the ability to have their questions answered, that you come forward now to the microphone, giving us your name and address for the record. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes. Anyone having any questions in the public about this, please come forward now.
Shell Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. So is my calculation correct? If we get approval for the 378 units of affordable housing, times 4 would be 1,512 market rate units that would be built in conjunction with the affordable housing.
No.
What would be the actual number?
I don't know yet, because we have to maximize out the bonuses based upon the projects and the availability of the bonuses. And then also, depending on how aggressively the town is with respect to a set aside. So maybe we say, no, we're not going to accept a 20% set aside. You're going to have to give us a 25% set aside. Or there's a supportive needs housing, which is 1 unit with 4 bedrooms, and we get 4 credits for that. Plus, we get a bonus credit per bedroom in the supportive needs housing. So it's more than just a straight, like, the 378, and I think that's what Mr. Weinberg was referring to, is that that's our obligation. That's credits, not units. So we have to work through the process. Currently, at the present time, I have reviewed no proposals for affordable housing for this round. I know you have had interested people, but I haven't seen anything, so I can't tell you definitively now. And if I did, it would be disingenuous, because it's going to depend on, number 1, getting through dispute resolution, solidifying the number, maximizing the bonuses the best we can, taking credit for, surplus credits from the prior round, which I think you referred to, and I think there are more.
Okay, so we only have 30% delivery on the current, this is on the third round situation. So what happens, we're not even finished with our third round, we're going into our fourth round. That third round was supposed to be done by 2025.
So-
You keep saying no, but I was at the court case.
So, okay, do you want me to answer?
Well,
Hold it,
I'm
folks.
responding to Mr. Weinberg, but you can
I know what you
answer.
were doing. I let her answer.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon for like COs to not be fully issued by the end of a cycle. It happens in pretty much every town. Your responsibility as a township, or their responsibility as the governing body, is to follow the regulations, approve a plan that has an implementation strategy in there, provide the zoning and whatever other, items were agreed to within the settlement agreement. You have to provide the opportunity. So I know that there are some units that aren't built. There are checkpoints that continue to happen. There's a midpoint review, there's an annual review. And when I say midpoint, it's midpoint in the cycle, so that has passed. But the annual review is, all those reports get submitted, basically is a check and balance on the status. But there's no requirement that the units have to be built. We have to be done by 2025.
Okay,
It's a
thank you, because
goal.
you're taking up my time. Okay, so the land factors that are involved, how much of wetlands were calculated into our obligations?
0.
Okay, so all of our wetlands are going to be protected from development? Okay.
Okay, so let me just say this. We don't really have the ability to protect the wetlands. That's a state of New Jersey regulation. And if somebody comes in with a development and applies to the DEP for a permit to fill an acre or less of wetlands, and they receive that permit, they're allowed to develop on that property. So when I say all, the answer is there's nothing that protects all of it. There are processes and buffer averaging and other mechanisms through development that can be employed so that all is never going to happen. What we've done is we've taken out of the calculation the environmentally sensitive areas. And I will say too, the DCA did not really include a lot of environmentally constrained area. If the property was included on the list, in many instances it wasn't the whole property, it was a portion of the property.
So they did not include environmentally
for the most part, they
constrained
did not.
area.
And when they did, we removed it.
Okay, because and I'm going to say that's not going to be well received. However, a lot of times we have state senators, and the people who I think have conflicts of interest who come to this municipality and actually have applications who then go to the DEP and get permits for wetlands, when I think it's a huge conflict of interest, and that does not protect the municipality of Monroe. And I would like to also say that I am not opposed to the affordable housing issue. I'm opposed to very wealthy developers coming in, doing a whole lot of market rates, and we don't see that our affordable housing, the necessity for affordable housing is being really addressed, because and you don't have to answer this, this is a sort of a rhetorical question.
I figured. It wasn't really a question, so I figured I wasn't going to
So I think it is unfortunate that things are happening. We have a community that pays all the prices, and the applicants and some of our elected officials, not necessarily in Monroe, but in the state, get the benefit of all this market rate housing, and Monroe citizens and other citizens in the state really pay the price for all this. And I'm worried about environmentally sensitive areas. I'm worried about high congestion. And as much as I believe in affordable housing, I think the plans are really do a disservice to our community.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address the council, please come forward now. Your name and address for our records, sir.
Good evening,
please.
Adam Elias, 93 Old Church Road. I was just kind of curious how it interacts rather with the Green Acre obligation and the, does the new statute, or does your planning at all accommodate for, so I'm actually kind of the opposite view of the last resident, where I'm wondering if all the open space, I think when I looked at the master plan, the last one that we did, it was like 50% of the land in the town between wetlands and open space was like 50%. So I would kind of want to know if some of that open space could potentially be converted to satisfy the obligation instead of clustering in more of the housing. Does that give more leeway, or is it, no?
So if a piece of property is on what we refer to as the ROSI, which is a Recreation Open Space Inventory, which is regulated through the DEP, the Green Acres is part of the DEP, you can't, to take a piece of property off the ROSI is extremely complicated. Could it be done? It could. But it's like, to get a piece of property off the ROSI alone is at least a 2-year process, if not longer. Has to be done through a diversion. You have to find a piece of property. It's typically 5 to 1. So if you take an acre, you have to find 5 acres of equally classified property, do a very expensive survey, and get the State House Commission, which meets like twice a year, to approve it before you can even entertain it. So generally what happens is once a piece of property is on the ROSI, it's not considered available. So when you're looking at affordable housing, you have to be able to prove that the site is available, and being on a ROSI makes it not available. So it's not something that the state even entertains us to look at, like the DCA, and we have eliminated all property that's on the ROSI from our calculation.
Which I think is wild, because the state is imposing this obligation, but it's not.
There's conflicting, okay, so when you go to the state, the DEP and the DCA do not play nice in the sandbox.
Okay.
Then you enter in the DOT, again, not a nice partner.
Right.
So they don't cooperate with each
Gotcha.
other.
So you basically took that all out in your calculation, all right. I believe you guys were also doing the master plan when we did it a couple years ago, were you guys?
I
here for
was
that?
a sub-consultant to the consultant that the township had hired, yes.
So based on what you guys have determined are the minimum number of units that we can do to satisfy the obligation, how do you see that interacting with the master plan? Do you think that's going to be an impediment?
So the housing element and fair share plan, which is a requirement of this process, is an element of the master plan. So that has to be adopted by the end of January and will be incorporated into the master plan.
No, I'm asking if you personally think that it's going to affect the master plan, which was,
No,
approved
I
2
don't.
years ago? Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir, please.
Hi.
Hi, Madam President. My name is Anjan Karnati, 11 Preservation Drive.
Thank you.
So, this affordable
Microphone,
housing,
please.
pardon?
Use the microphone
Okay,
so
sure.
we can all hear the question you're asking.
The calculations you mentioned, 378. Is that the one-time deal or every year you are doing this one?
It's a 10-year cycle.
10-year
So this cycle is 2025 to 2035. So this number is for the entirety of the 10-year.
10 years. Okay. Next question is, how this is going to benefit our residents, Monroe Township residents?
So here's the answer. It's a
Yes.
constitutional obligation. So it's in our New Jersey state constitution
Mm-hmm.
that municipalities have to provide for an opportunity for low to moderate income housing. And so what I will say is that the intent behind that is that you have low to moderate income households in your community that need housing. So that's the benefit. That's the way they put it. But it's a constitutional obligation.
Does it impact our taxes? How it is impacts?
I mean, no different than any other development. It's, there'll be an assessment associated with whatever development happens, and it goes into the overall valuation of the community. And this is not Section 8 housing. I want to be very clear. It's not
Okay.
subsidized housing. A for-sale housing unit will have a mortgage, will pay taxes, et cetera. If it's a rental project, the rental owner will have property taxes, and they will, it's not subsidized housing.
So-
People have to show an income.
How this ordinance is burden on municipalities?
Pardon, what do you mean?
Municipalities means, taxes and burden on the
So
workforce.
it's unfortunate, but they don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your sewer capacity is. It doesn't matter what your infrastructure is.
Mhm.
Your obligation is a constitutional obligation. It's been going on since the mid-'80s. Goes on every 10 years. I mean, the last cycle was long because we couldn't get any regulations approved. But in general, this is, this is a discussion at 10,000 feet at the legislature, and the impact at the local level is really not factored in. other than if the land can handle the property or not. But if the road's not wide enough, the road needs to be widened. If you don't have capacity in your sewer, the sewer has to be adjusted. And that's, their mentality is, we should do what needs to be done to provide the housing.
So whoever is the applicant got granted this, you know.
So kind of. So the developers of affordable housing have been very successful in lobbying both the legislature and the court system. And so there's regulations that prevent towns from putting onerous financial burdens on developers that are building affordable housing development. It's called cost generative. So you can't expect someone that's building affordable housing, because in theory, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is the theory, that the market rate units that are being developed subsidize the affordable units, and that there's not a lot of margin in that project. So to burden the developers with, like, tree clearing is a big one that came up in Jackson, and Jackson lost the argument. Extending infrastructure, like a light, putting in a traffic light. A lot of these items have been determined by the courts to be cost generative. And so what happens is that the town has a trust fund, which is, money is in that trust fund from development. It's not part of your general fund. And so in some instances, the municipalities have utilized funds out of the trust fund to help offset some of these expenses.
So basically, you know, builder is going to get, you know, get the incur all the expenses, or anything burden on municipalities or people?
I'm not really understanding what you're
No,
asking
no.
me.
That-
All the infrastructure cost, who is going to bear that?
Probably us.
That means
I
municipalities.
mean, I'm not saying we're not gonna ask,
Uh-huh.
or they'll pay their fair share of it, but
Fair
if a
share-
light has to go in and they're
Okay.
contributing 10% of the traffic to the intersection, they pay 10% of the cost. They don't pay the whole cost.
So 90% burden is on the
Well,
municipality.
and other, if you can capture it from other people, other places, but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
our hands are tied. Like this
Whose
legislation.
hands are tight? Our hands means
Town,
The town.
towns.
town.
The legislation came down from the state. The legislators passed this legislation last year. Prior to that, there were regulations that had been put in place in the 90s that we're
Okay.
required to follow. So, and the towns fight it. There's currently litigation pending on the procedural litigation about how some of these things were adopted. So far, the towns have a 0% success rate.
Just to add one item to that, and this doctrine, this bill comes out of years and years of litigation as well, case law from the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So a lot of what comes and is brings us to this stage, and that the bill responds to, is case law over years that has established a doctrine in New Jersey. So that's one additional item.
Is there any website is available? Okay, Monroe Township is.
Mr.
378.
Carnati, your time is up now.
Okay, thank you.
Please, thank you very much for your comments. Yes, please. Again, your name and address for our records.
It takes the fat away anyway.
Gets rid of the wrinkles.
Lucio Panos, 1208 Sealandero Plaza, Monroe. Happy New Year, everybody. It's been a good one so far. But anyway, my questions are, and I'll run my questions through, and then you could answer to Alicia.
Perfect.
Okay, that's my usual thing. We're responsible for all the infrastructure. I don't, or some of it is what I understood from the last one. So why are we not including land that doesn't have water and sewer? There's a possibility of a developer coming in. He wants to develop 200 units, and 50, as long as 50 are affordable housing, he gets to do whatever he wants with the rest. Well, he should be able, you should leave that land open to him and let him put in water and sewer. You know? That would seem a reasonable thing, instead of coagulating everything into just so many acres, 260 acres. That was question one. Question two, it's the place of valor was mentioned, and that's a concern with a lot of seniors in this area, or veterans. From what I'm understanding, there's 80 units, and 37 are for veterans. Is that,
No.
that's my question. You could, when it's done. And could somebody please explain to the public the difference between units and credits?
So I can easily, so as I said earlier, units are physical units, right? Credits are, you can incorporate bonuses. So I think we've gone through that a couple times. So 25% of your total obligation can be taken as bonus credits, meaning not a physical unit, you're going to get a bonus credit on some type of unit, whether it's near mass transportation, if it's supporting
Okay,
housing.
I got that part, thank you. You know, that, you can just explain that.
Right, but I mean, you asked me the question again, so I figured I would answer it, but.
Because the units and thing, is the possibility of how many, you know, could be.
Folks, would you use the
bonus.
microphone,
Okay,
please?
is the possibility of how many units and such, and it's still not a solid number. But when Michelle asked a question, what's the number? Well, you couldn't really give, we'll give, you know.
So,
you
right,
could
so
get-
the obligation that we've adjusted is 378. I can't give you a number because I don't have any projects yet, so I can't tell you what bonuses or how many are gonna be applied.
Right, but listen, you're just alluding to it as if it's a good thing. Oh, we could get these bonuses, and we could possibly get these bonuses, and it might not happen at all.
It is
So
gonna
let's-
happen. It is gonna happen.
Well,
Maybe
then-
we don't get up
then
to
maybe you should have
25%.
Folks,
had a
most
more
of you can't
definitive
talk at
answer
the first
for Michelle.
time.
I think that
If you're definitely going to happen, maybe she should have got a definitive answer.
I think the way that
So
maybe
Hold on one second, Christopher. So I can definitively tell you that you are going to be eligible for bonuses. Can I definitively tell you where and how many? No. So I can't give you a bottom line number because I don't have projects with which to weigh the bonuses against. But we will attempt to, we're eligible for up to 25%. And I think that's what it's like 95.
Right, I got that, thank you.
95
My
units of
apologies,
bonus.
I didn't fully, I wanted everybody else to fully understand it, because me, who knows some of this, didn't fully understand it. Okay, well, why she didn't get her answer. So, my question about not including land with, not including land with the water and sewer abilities, why not? Why not
We are
some?
including the land that has water and sewer.
No, but why,
If you include more land, the number goes up.
oh, okay.
So if we
that's a fair
include more
answer.
property, then the number gets closer to the 751 number.
Okay,
In order to
thank you for that
continuously adjust it
explanation,
down,
that's
we have
fair.
to keep the number as low as possible.
Who's going to answer? Oh, where can I get a list of these judges that are going to be on this panel that,
It's on the website.
there's a
all
website.
the judges are listed on your website of the town? of
If
the
you go
township?
to Google and you type in Affordable Housing Dispute Resolution Program, there is a website that is just set up for this program, gives you lots of information, lets you see what other towns have done.
Sure, thank you.
Statewide.
And then, before the valid question, because this might not be so popular either, and please don't take it personal, but we have this young man from the law firm, that the township attorney from the law firm is, that the Speaker of the Assembly law firm. I mean, it's either, is that a good thing, or is it a conflict? I think maybe there should have been more people involved in this. And it's
Time
a
is
valid
up.
question, I know.
Mr. Weinberg, do you want to quickly
Sure,
comment
and-
yet again about how the Valor pointers
Sure,
work?
right, so.
No,
so-
Valor, how many apartments are in the Valor? There's 80 units, I'm told, with 37 available for veterans.
No.
But it's called Valor.
No.
If I can, Council
Please,
President.
would you let
Thank
him
you.
explain it again?
Sure. So when we did the round 3 settlement, 37 units were in there for veterans only, and that's part of our settlement, so 37 will be for veterans only. When we did the tax credit financing with the HMFA, we were able to do that as a veterans preference, which means veterans will go in unless no veterans apply to go into the other 43 units. If we don't fill the other 43 units, we lose the 43 credits, and they become a 4-to-1 ratio, and you get to build another 172 plus 43 units. You get to build another 200 units somewhere in the town. So if no veterans apply for those other 43 units, instead of leaving them empty,
Of course.
non-veteran Americans will move into
I
them.
hope there's a big outreach to the
We
veterans.
have,
100%.
there is. Anyone else wishing to speak, please come forward now.
I'm going to go back to the agenda items. George Kunkelman, 5 Kelly Court.
Yes, sir.
Amongst the ordinances for introduction, 005, bond ordinance providing recreation improvements. My question is to do what, where?
Could you repeat that number? I had difficulty hearing.
It's just the
Oh, I'm
last
sorry. I see it
of
again
the
now.
ordinances
005.
for introduction.
Correct, the bond
005.
ordinance.
So I can answer that, if you want, Council
I
President.
would appreciate it.
Sure. Would you like your answer now, Mr. Kunkelman, or at the end? Sorry.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
Okay, so as part of the master plan, and then thereafter the master plan, we created 2 phases of recreational and program improvements, Phase 1 and Phase 2. This is some design money to begin to move forward on both Phase 1 and Phase 2 projects. I can show you where they're on our website. In order for us to move forward on these, we would first have to put the bonding in place, as you see here, and then come back to the council with approval for design contracts. So they're all part of our master plan outreach effort as part of the recreation plan, Phase 1 and Phase 2.
So the 250,000 is for design only?
This
Not
would be for-
It's not going to do anything, it's just going to design what we would do.
Well, yeah, you have to design something to do something. Yeah. Yes.
He knows that.
One would hope.
Yes.
Thank you. Amongst the consent agenda, item 031,
Yes.
architectural services. Apparently, we forgot to design something up front, and now we're going to pay another $125,000 for additional architectural fees.
Right, so this, if I could answer, Council
Yes,
President?
please do.
Right, so this firm is doing both 3 components. They do the design, they do the bidding, and then they do the construction management phase. We're in the construction management phase, and I was going to update this a little bit in my report, but the project has obviously moved a little bit slower than we had liked, although it's picking up in the last month or so with the roof going on. So this is for construction management services. This will help us get through, pay us through December and January, and carry us through February and March as well with construction management, and hopefully that'll bring us towards the end of the project. Collectively, this will bring us our design, bidding, and construction management will take us through 16.2% of the cost of the bid of the project, which is not an exorbitantly high number for a design, bid, and architectural design, bid, and construction management for a complicated project to expand an existing building, Council President.
So the project they designed initially, and they're managing for us, they're taking longer to achieve, and because there's a time overrun, we're going to reward them with more fees. Correct?
If I could, Council President?
Please, Mr.
They're not taking more time. The contractor, who's the low bidder, is taking more time than we would like, now that we're at the end of the contract period, and we're going to give them, if I could. Sorry.
Yeah, well.
Not the construction
I'm sorry,
manager.
but this is my bailiwick. That's what I
Sure.
did for a living for a very long time.
Okay.
The idea that project management isn't responsible for the timeline that the subcontractors are is silly, and you wouldn't get away with it in any meeting.
They're
But
not the
I'm
contractor.
going to leave it.
Okay.
I'm done with that. You know, it's just, that is not the reality in this world. Maybe it is in public contracting, but in commercial, not for a second. My other question is 030 and 039 are the same item. Resolution authorizing refund of tax overpayments.
Correct.
So we're paying them twice?
Not for them.
It's different people. I can ask the clerk why they put them on separate resolutions. It might have been handed in separately by the tax collector at 2 different times, but it's morely administrative. It's not different people. It's not the same people.
Correct. I'll look into it, yes.
It's just 2 different groups? Why weren't they put together in one group?
You can ask the clerk.
Yeah, I believe they were just given to us at different times. They didn't combine them, but I'll look into it. Thank you.
It doesn't matter. It just appeared to be a typo, but it's not. That's all I had.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to address the council on this issue that we have been discussing with our planner and the attorney, and/or other issues that are agenda items only, come forward now. All right? Only what's on the agenda item, not into the body of the meeting. Please.
Sherry went.
Lucio Panos, 1208 Cilandero Plaza. Could you, 036, 036, 037, and 038. 036 is, please explain, why there's a need for this. 037, how many lights, or how many authorizing contract, for how many crosswalk flashing lights, solar powered, are we getting? It's 23,000 a light? Are we only getting one? And
Council President?
38 is, what is the pricing per unit? What is the unit pricing? The amount?
Council President, 036 has to do with the preemption agreement for the intersection of Prospect Plains and Applegarth Road. This is one of the last steps before they will be going out to bid for that project. The preemption is for our emergency vehicles, and the agreement is that the township has to maintain that. The county will install it as part of the project, but we maintain it.
Is that because of the development that's going to happen there?
Preemption, Mr.
I know what preemption is.
No,
but
it's
there's
something
never
Councilman
any-
DePiero requested for the first responders.
So they can get through.
Charlie, you never told me.
That can't happen.
But anyway, go ahead.
Council President, with regard to 037, that is the flashing solar-powered crosswalk lights between the community center and Mill Lake School on Monmouth Road.
Okay.
But is that $22,914.97 for one solar-powered light?
That's two solar-powered lights, one on each side of the road. This has been an item that's come up. I know Councilman DePiero has brought it up a couple times, and we've been anxious to get this going, and it's finally on the agenda.
I'm actually anxious for my own community to see how much it is, but it's a little much. And the unit pricing for publication?
Sir, ma'am, I'm sorry, you had, that was,
I said 038. How much is the per unit pricing? So how much is it per unit?
Jaffe's contract.
Again,
Please.
so I believe it's about, I think it's like $16,750 to print and mail to about the 23,000 or so residents that are on the bulk mailing, Council President.
So did he do the math? I don't want to do the math. How much is it per unit? How much is it per paper?
I mean, I'll try and do it in my head.
Thank you. Okay.
75 cents
He's more
without a
familiar.
calculator.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else, please?
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Beth DePiero, 404 Spotswood Gravel Hill Road in Monroe Township. I would like to know if rounds 1 and 2 we've fulfilled the obligation of the affordable housing?
Well, I can answer that. So round 1, we're done. Round 2, the affordable units are built, but the market rates are still being built from 1997. Monroe Manor was completed about 3 years ago, but there are still 80 units in Stratford that are still being built at a clip of about 15 to 20 houses a year next to the Monroe Senior Center. And I think in about 4 years, even though it started in 1997, 1998, it should be done in about 4 or 5 years.
So between rounds 2 and round 3, how many more housing units are to be built for the affordable housing?
So as I just mentioned, round 2, there's about 80 units yet left. For round 3, which was mentioned earlier, I have the numbers in front of me. Again, as our planner testified, it's putting in place the zoning and the realistic opportunity to build them. For the affordables, 309 of the 850 have COs on them. That's 36% of the affordable have been built. For the market rate, 1,252 of the 3,529, or 35% of the market rate, have been constructed, have FCOs on them.
Okay, and the building going on Mounts Mills Road, I know they're not built yet, but they're coming. Is that going to be considered round 3 or round 4?
Everything in the town is round 3 except for the units next to the senior center that are part of Stratford.
So round 4 hasn't even been configured yet as to where?
We're literally sitting there trying to establish the number.
Okay.
Nothing is started on round 4. Yeah.
That's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, this is like one, we have people wishing to come up again? I didn't argue with you, I merely just assumed that you're doing. Thank you.
I'm just not used to you not arguing with me. Okay, so just resolution 043, the resolution about the open space inventory. And I know that Councilman DePiero has often asked for that. So is this, at this point, as complete as we have as an updated and amended document?
Yes.
And it is available to the public? Is it on, where does that belong?
I just want to make sure I got this right if I could, Council President. So this is adding 41 properties to it. It's maintained by the DEP. So these 41 properties will be added to it, and it's housed on the DEP website. So once this gets mailed into DEP, the updated list is housed, I believe, on the DEP website.
If you go on the Green Acres website, there's a very simple pull-down menu where you put in the county and the community, and then it will give you the entirety, all by block and lot, the entirety of the list that the
In each specific community, like in Monroe?
In Monroe Township.
Right.
The list will be specific to Monroe Township.
Okay, thank you.
These 41 may take a couple weeks to get added to that
Okay,
list
so
once we
let's
mail it
say
in.
I wait 60 days.
It should be-
But when will we have it in-house as a document that is updated? I know you're saying that it's going to the state. That's great. The DEP will have that. But I know often, we should have it as well. The whole.
Yep.
Kevin, please.
I know it's been asked for many years, and we haven't been able to get actually the most updated.
Yeah, Council President, we have it as a spreadsheet. It was attached to the master plan, included in the master plan process. It's been updated. I've provided it to Councilman DePiero, I think several times, even recently as the last couple of weeks, and we could certainly provide it to you.
But is it anywhere now that, like if I went home and found it on any of our websites in Monroe, or?
I have to double check if it's included at the end of the master plan on the website of the planning board. If it's not, then I'll put it there.
So we actually do update it
We
on
do,
a
yeah.
regular basis. So when this
Correct. When we buy a new piece of property, I put it on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I'd like to have a complete list, and I know it's a list that changes periodically, but we should always have like a complete list on there, because that's very important, the Green Acres program. I know, and unfortunately in Monroe, we have had Green Acres land diversion. And so it is possible, it's shameful that it is possible that we take land from the township parks and put municipal buildings on it. But we did get 77 acres of diverted land, some of which was really not the same quality as uplands in the park. But I know unfortunately it is possible.
It is, it's just not easy.
Sir. Again, your name and address for our records, please.
Anjan Karnati, 11 Preservation Drive. I'm talking about 005 ordinance, bond ordinance providing for recreation improvement, open space. Where is this location? May I know that locations? Where is that? Is it south side or north side?
So this is a bond authorization, if I could, Council President. This is a bond authorization, so there's not a specific location yet. There's an overall plan for locations. In order for us to look at doing a contract and advancing something, you have to have a funding source. So the first thing you do is set up a funding source. So should we come to the council with a specific location, we would have to do it. But it would all have been previously identified in the master plan. But we haven't made a specific recommendation on which project yet. But first you have to put money in place to be able to do that.
So I would request, because I live in the south side,
Sure.
I would request any recreations, south side, if you could spend council and, president and everybody, that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Anyone else wishing to come before the council at this time? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to request a motion to close the public hearing on the agenda session, please. Motion. Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We will now move, no, you can't go anywhere.
I know.
Gee. This is the council. Right. I'm going to ask the council one by one. I'm going to begin on my extreme left with Councilwoman Siegel. Questions to Jen and Chris regarding this information we've received.
Thank you. So actually, I had a bunch of questions today. However, your presentation was so thorough, and it really explained a lot of the questions that I did have. So I thank you for that analysis. I know we had a lot of material that we had also received part of the evaluation, so it was very thorough. So actually, I have no questions other than to say thank you for the information, and hopefully people in the public that aren't here today will come back and watch the video, because I think you explained it really well.
Thank you. Council Vice President Van Zura.
I don't have any questions. I think Jennifer did a wonderful job explaining things, and it's not a simple topic either. So to get into the weeds and read all the different things that apply, I took my notes, and I feel like I understand exactly what you said. So thank you so much for coming.
No problem. Councilman Markell.
Yeah, my only question is is it on?
Good.
I know this is a new system this year, so there's not much experience from this. But from your guess, they have 30 days to challenge our number, like outside sources. What is your guesstimate that will be challenged by outside sources? I know that the state can't challenge it, right?
No, the state can't challenge it.
Right.
I'm fairly confident. You have one or two pretty heavy-hitting, experienced developers that have been in and around Monroe over the years. I would venture to guess that if they have experience, they're going to do something to get them like in the process. Will they have done a deep dive into the numbers like we did? Definitely not. I mean, they don't have the historic knowledge either. So, you know, it was invaluable to have your office as well as, Alan, your information to help guide, because, you know, I pulled up a property and they're like, oh yeah, that property, we did that. So there's no way an outside developer is going to have that level of inside knowledge. But I would be very surprised at a community as significant as this, given the players that have been here in the past, if we don't have one or two of them in the mix.
Thank you.
Councilman DePiero.
Thank you very much. I have quite a bit of questions, so hopefully we can go through one by one.
Sure.
My first question is, you said we have a bunch of players, in the town. Living here my entire life, watching these builders come in and get approvals, does the town planning board or the town have any recourse if a developer that came here for round 2, round 3, did not fill out obligation and is coming in front of this board for round 4? Is there anything, I know it's a legal question, I'm glad we have 2 attorneys here, but does the town have any say if a developer or a player comes in and says, hey, I want this, and we're going to give them 4-to-1, 3-to-1, and they didn't fill their obligations to us in the previous rounds?
So the short answer is that how you satisfy your obligation is up to you. You're not obligated to put anyone in this plan. You get to pick and choose the projects that you want, where you want them, given what's come your way. I mean, obviously, if nobody comes to the table, it's still a different situation, but you're not obligated to put anyone in. You're obligated to hit the 378, which is where we are at now. If you have a plan, and I've had experience with this in other towns where there's a local developer and has a long-standing history with the community and was involved in round 2, was involved in round 3, but this past round they were very aggressive but yet have done nothing in the entirety of this round, which was 25 years. They're going to have a hard time getting a seat at the table, right? Because we don't feel like they've negotiated in the past in good faith. But we still have to satisfy our obligation. So if we can satisfy it without them, and we say, listen, you know, your credibility is shot, you've told us you were going to do this multiple times, now it's a bait and switch, and we don't really trust your motives, and we have other, you know, projects that we feel would be more beneficial to satisfying the obligation, you're out of luck, you can do that. That's assuming you have the ability to meet the obligation. If you can't meet the obligation and we're short, it puts us in a little difficult situation because we're not compliant with whatever the number turns out to be. So in that particular instance, I feel, and Christopher, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to get pressure from Fair Share Housing Center and the court because we haven't hit the number that we need to hit. So if we can come up with a plan without them, you're totally entitled to do that.
Okay, when you say we, who is exactly we? Is it the council, mayor and council, or is it planning board when you say we?
So technically, this is a different scenario than you would typically find for a master plan. Like typically a master plan is 100% a planning board initiative, except for this process, because this process also involves the expenditure of money. So part of your housing element includes your spending plan, which shows how you're going to spend the money in the trust fund, and you have to commit to bond for certain things if you don't have money in the trust fund. So there's a financial component to this particular element of the master plan that's separate and apart from like a land use element or a circulation element. Secondly, part of this process, the mayor and council are obligated to zone for whatever project gets incorporated into the plan. So like the days where people say, yes, you're in our housing plan, congratulations, and then they go to the planning board with 8,000 variances and get denied, the legislature kind of caught on to that and eliminated that possibility. So now you have to zone for it. My experience is in every town that I work in, and I was just telling Christopher this earlier, I'm doing this in 28 towns right now. So throughout the state, the mayor and council are instrumental in the selection of those projects that get incorporated into them. In certain towns, there may be like the planning board chairperson is incorporated into like a subcommittee where you have, you know, one or two governing body members, the planning board chair, because it does help when you get to the planning board for them to have been involved in some way, shape, or form before the plan in its entirety is kind of sprung onto them. But my experience has been the selection of projects, because of all the components that have to go into it, money, zoning, et cetera, in almost every single instance, it's the governing body. Most times I have on like a committee, a subcommittee, during the negotiations, I usually have like the mayor, a council person, and the BA. They're the ones that are at the table during like mediation and negotiations.
Okay, so you mentioned zoning.
Along with us, like along with the
Of course.
consent, right.
So you mentioned zoning. When you calculated the 260 acres of 42 square miles, 1,258, you said that, and then you got it down to 260 acres that you believe is developable land left in Monroe. My question is, did you use current zoning?
The zoning is irrelevant.
So you didn't use any?
It doesn't matter.
So you didn't use any zoning?
No, and you can't.
Right, because people can come in and ask for variances, as you just said.
No, it's not that. You have to zone the property for the project. You have
Okay,
to.
okay,
You're
so-
obligated
so
to.
it's obligated.
So the underlying zoning is irrelevant to the process because the zoning on a piece of property that you're selecting has to change. So if it's zoned commercial, it doesn't exclude it from the process because you have to rezone it to whatever the project is.
Right.
A perfect example of that is Manalapan Township. The entirety of Route 33 was zoned non-residential, right? Even Four Seasons is set like way, way back. Nob Hill set way, way back. Majority of their projects are on 33. So all that property had to be rezoned. They had to run a new water main because they weren't anticipating the water demand. But you're expected to modify your zoning to address this issue.
Well, that's also creeping into Monroe as well, the Route 33. State highways turning into a lot of apartment complexes or townhouses.
Or warehouses.
So what about when we purchase development rights? Do we get any credits?
Like
We have-
farmland development rights you're talking about?
No, we buy a piece of, a person owns 30, 40 acres, could build, say, 20 homes, and we get funds from the state, the county, and we purchase development rights, so it comes deed restricted, so they cannot develop it. Do we get any kind of credit for that?
It just comes off the the acres.
So we don't get any credit at all
No.
for this?
Well,
Okay. So when we purchase open space, in the past. We purchased a nursing home, we purchased a restaurant bar establishment. That's what we're talking about, getting credits, I guess, with open space purchases?
No, so
or
you
no?
don't get credit for open space purchases. But if it's deed restricted open space, it cannot be calculated into the formula to generate your obligation. It comes out of the total. That's the 1,200 acres down to 260 acres. Those properties were removed. That's why 1,000 acres was removed from the analysis. So you don't get credit for it. It's just the overall number of acres gets reduced, which then changes that land capacity factor, which reduces your obligation.
Okay, so I know this developer that is in our community and was in another community neighboring Old Bridge, and he tried to specifically build all affordable housing as one parcel, like what you're talking about. Is the round 4 designed to specifically go to a parcel, or when a developer comes in and he builds a development, each development, do they have to put affordable units in each development, or can it just be a parcel specific for affordable housing?
It depends on how your settlement is identified. There is a provision in the law that allows for off-site affordable housing. I'm not a huge fan of it because there's a schedule in the regulations that you can't build all the market rate before the affordable. It has to kind of, once you hit a certain number of market rate, the affordable has to start being built. And when it's not on the same property, it's just more challenging, but it can be done. So you can say, so another community, one builder had 2 pieces of property not next to each other, and it was evaluated by the town and the court in the prior round as one project. And one of the sites has no affordable units, and the other site has all the affordable units from both sites, but the phasing evaluates it as if it's one project. So you're not going to build the 100% market rate while this one waits. Like it's phased, and Fair Share was very particular about that, making sure that the phasing was put in every settlement agreement and that the COs are not issued. So you can do it that way. It's just a little bit more oversight to make sure that, the
Right.
COs are being issued properly.
Well, how does DCA, how did they regulate that? Like, say, the past round, did they want development? They didn't want development on one particular parcel,
care.
like what you're saying. They don't really care. It's
They
up
don't
to
care.
it's up to the town.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
They just want the units. They really don't care where you put them.
So I looked at this list, and I just got this Friday, okay? So, and all of us just got it, as far as I know, Friday. And I just looked at 2 parcels that, that I personally own with my wife or my family. And it's pretty non-sewer service area. I understand how the state puts it in tiers and everything. It has my personal house, which my wife and we owned it for 40 years in a non-sewer service area. So either MTMUA or MTUD owes my wife and I a lot of money because we do have water and sewer. And I'm on this list as non-sewer.
That's not what the list is.
No, well, it says non-sewer service area.
So there's a multitude of things. If your property is on the list of properties that were, and I think we talked about this site.
Yeah, I could talk about
Well, I'm trying to understand
So
this.
the bottom line is there's a single house on a large piece of property. The state's never going to let us take your whole site off the available developable list because a house is here and there's property back here. That's what I was saying earlier. The parcel data that the DCA produced is not like your block and lot in totality. They took out portions of the property that are developed, and anything that's on the list that went towards the 260 acres has water and sewer. If it does not have water and sewer, it would have been removed from the list as not developable.
Oh,
I can
Go
answer
ahead.
this one,
We
Jen.
do have water and sewer. It was put in by the town and also by a developer in the past. But who made this list up? This list.
I can answer this question, Councilman. So we received this list of the 1,259 acres of developable land from the DCA based on the metrics that they put together through the legislation. On that list of the 520-something properties, obviously, as you noticed, included the land that you own on Spotswood Gravel Hill Road, which has, I guess, 5 acres in the backyard, right? Or
has about 10.
10 acres in the backyard, I apologize. You know, and so they identified behind your house, right, and way in the backyard, some developable land that they thought could be developed as part of round 4 of affordable housing. When we match that up based on the sewer service area, from your house forward, this is just looking at the map, is in the sewer service area based on the maps that we looked at. From your back of your house back, right, it doesn't show that it's in the sewer service area. So we tried to exclude, not just for you, but for anything in this 1,259 acres of property and 521 parcels, anything that's not in the sewer service area, we feel, and we feel strongly about this, we don't have to include as developable as part of round 4. We don't have an obligation to add new things into a sewer service area to promote development. And so we took, 100 parcels out that were not in the sewer service area, or pieces of parcels. The front of your, I don't want to get into too much detail, is in the sewer service area, but the back, just on the map we looked at, didn't show that it was it. We had to do 521 parcels, so you had to go through it. So that was my understanding of the situation.
Okay, so thank you. So DCA made this list, is what you're telling us? So it sounds like that to be challenged, with your job that your firm did, and you did a good job with this, and thank you for getting the numbers down. But it really doesn't sound like it can be challenged, because this is the only thing that could be challenged is the land capacity, is what your presentation said. So we went from 12.19 down to 2.56. So with that, it doesn't sound like our numbers could really go up. They can only go down.
I would venture to guess that the development community would have a different opinion on that. Like, I don't know what they're going to provide. I don't know how detailed information that they're going to use to challenge the number. I think the thing is, I think that anyone who is considering putting forth a proposal probably will challenge the number just to get them as part of the process, because you can't just interject whenever you want now. Now it's a very controlled. Previously, through the DJ action and the court stuff, we had people making motions to intervene at various points in the process, and there was no prohibition of that. Obviously the judge could say, no, you're too late, but in general, most of the time they let them in. Here, there's a very clear, defined, today, right? I put the premise out there, that they have in February. So my guess is that if somebody thinks that they want to develop, they're probably going to provide something. Now, the thing is that if you don't have a whole litany of people knocking down your door, and the development community can get what they need at the 378 number, they don't care, right? They just want to make sure that there's room for them. So if we come up with a plan that has 2 projects in it, and we can get to the 378 number, and developer number 3 is left out in the cold, they're going to kick and scream about it, right? They're going to say our number needs to be higher so that they can get included into the plan. That's kind of where I'm thinking their thought process is going to be.
They have to prove it.
They do, but I don't know to what level of proof is going to be required, because we've never gone through this process.
It's all new.
Right.
So, and you mentioned before, you didn't say the words impact fees. It sounded like that's the word that we don't talk about.
Alternative.
Yeah, we just don't talk about the impact fees, but we can ask for it.
I would absolutely ask.
I'm using the words that you said.
Yeah,
we can ask.
There's no harm in asking,
Right.
And depending on the magnitude of whatever the project is, some infrastructure improvements. Listen, road widening, those types of things on their side of the street and along their frontage, that's pretty typical. I wouldn't consider that cost generative if that had to happen. But if the road needs to be widened, like for a long stretch that goes beyond their property, we can ask. My
Right.
guess is that they're going to say no. But
Right, we can ask.
Still am as aggressive as possible. Also, it's important to note that if major infrastructure improvements are necessary, like water main or something like that, and you have however many units in the particular area that this infrastructure needs to be improved in, and the set aside for affordable housing is 20%, you can use trust fund dollars up to 20% of the value of that improvement. So you don't have to to take it out of your general fund. You can use trust fund dollars. Plus, it's important to note, you can also bond against that trust fund. So if there's a major improvement that is necessitated through affordable housing and you don't have the balance in the trust fund currently, you can bond against it and then pay down the debt service with the development fees that come into the trust fund.
Right.
So there are methods to
My
take care
my
of it.
last question is, with your experience,
Yeah.
and you come well recommended from our law firm, and with your recommendation, I mean, with your track record, what would you say, one of the residents brought up a 4-to-1 ratio on the marketable? So it would, if this is going to, whatever our number's going to be, if it's 378 or lower, what do you think the marketable rates, marketable homes would be roughly about?
So
In round 4.
I can tell you the development community will come in and push for 15%, which for me is a hard no. So that would be a no right off the bat. Then they turn it around, and I think I think that there's justification for us to say no, because historically, if you did a rental project where you got 2-for-1 bonus credits, it was a smaller set aside of 15%. But eliminating those bonus credits, kind of in my mind, eliminates the 15%. Like now, everything should be a straight 20%. But we should start at 25% at least. Like Howell Township, 30% in the last round. Manalapan Township, 24% in the last round. Hillsborough Township, 24% in the last round. You don't want to give us 24%? Have a nice day. Someone else will be more than happy to do so. And like the judge even told developers in Manalapan, if you don't come to the table with 24%, they're not going to listen to you. So you can ask for more. They're going to fight it. You know, they're going to fight about it, especially considering the cost of construction lately has been higher than it has been in the past. But there's nothing that says we have to accept 20%. You know what I mean? We can push for higher numbers, and we should, because that would decrease the overall number of units that's necessary.
All right, thank you for everything, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
You're most welcome. I would like to say thank you very much for the professionalism of the information that you gave. Fact-based is always very helpful.
No problem.
Grateful. I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn our agenda meeting. Please.
Council President, if I may, after review, Resolution R30 was duplicated with R39. There was just one additional property added for the overpayments. So thank you, Mr. Gunkelman. So R30 I would like to have removed.
Okay. Thank you. We'll do that when we do the session. Thank you. Thank you so much. She's letting me, we'd like to adjourn our meeting. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you so much. A second on that.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilman Markel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Vanzora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes, this meeting is adjourned.
The agenda meeting is adjourned. It's 8:02.
Much. Regular meeting is called to order. Motion, please.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you again. Roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilman Markel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Vanzora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes, meeting is in order. The time is
8:02.
perfect. May I have a motion to approve the payments of claims per the run date of January 23rd, 2025?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilman Markel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Vanzora?
Yes.
Council President Cohen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the following meetings as written and presented? December 18th, 2024, agenda and regular combined meeting. January 6th, 2025, agenda and regular combined meeting. Motion, please.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero?
Yes.
Councilman Markel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel?
Yes.
Council Vice President Vanzora?
Abstain.
Council President Cohen?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance for the second reading, 01-2025-001. Supervisory Personnel, 2025 Salary and Wage Ordinance for Monroe Township, Middlesex County. Like a public hearing, so may I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you. A second on that.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Anyone wishing to address the council on 01/2025-001, please come forward now. Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Thank you. Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to adopt 01/2025-001?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero. Yes. Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 01/2025-002, ordinance authorizing the recording of easements for municipal purposes of various municipal-owned parcels. I need a motion to open a public hearing.
Motion.
Thank you. A second on that.
Second.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. Anyone on the from the public wishing to address us on this ordinance, please come forward now. Seeing and hearing none, motion to close public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No objections. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 01/2025-001?
002.
002.
So moved.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 5 is ordinance for our first reading is 01/2025-003. It's an ordinance amending Chapter 79, Police Department Rules and Regulations by repealing Articles 1 through 5 and 8 and amending and relocating Chapter 79, Articles 6 through 7 and Articles 9 through 13 to Chapter 3. Administration of Government, Article 6, Department of Administration and Finance, subsection 3-50, Division of Police. Motion, please.
Motion.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you. For introduction, 01/2025-004, bond ordinance providing for various roadway, sidewalk, and curb improvements by and in the Township of Monroe, in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating of $1,700,000, therefore, and authorizing the issue of $1,619,000 in bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. A motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you. A roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 01/2025-005. Bond ordinance providing for recreation improvements on open space by and in the Township of Monroe, in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $250,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $238,000 in bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. Motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Would the clerk please do the resolutions for consideration under the consent agenda, R1/2025-029 through R1/2025-046 minus?
We will be removing R1 2025-030.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Council President, I'd like to, there's two resolutions I'd like to specify. I haven't done this before. So there are R1 2025-031 and R1 02025-038. I would be a no vote for those two. and taking out the one that our township clerk talked about. The rest I would say yes
We
to.
will make that a no vote, be a separate,
So the
We'll remove
31 and the 38, I'm a no.
we'll have a separate vote.
Okay, so that's the way, because I know that I had this conversation with Alan before, and he says,
Just
you could
vote
do
on
that.
Like, look, they're giving me the right to tell you to do it the other way. Just check with the lawyer on my left. We're doing it the other way.
Well, after hearing the public's comments and everything about this,
You want to do
I
it?
change your heart on listening to what the public
That's
said.
fine. There's no, that's fine.
So
Thank
we're
you for
removing
sharing
them?
that. So we will remove them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Removing those two, please.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
That's all right. Yeah.
Okay, so right now we have a motion and a second for the resolutions under the consent agenda, removing R1 2025-030 and removing Resolution R1 2025-031 and 038 off of the consent agenda.
Correct.
Okay, roll call.
And we will vote for that.
Yes. Councilman DePiero.
This is to remove them, correct?
Correct.
All right, yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries. There we go.
Now do the vote with them removed. Yes.
Okay.
Consent agenda.
Okay, so this is us voting now on the resolutions on the consent agenda, R1 2025-029 through R1 2025-046. R1 2025-030 was removed. R1 2025-031 and 038 is removed off the consent agenda, will be voted on separately.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, let's start our
So
little.
we need a motion.
We need a motion, please.
Motion.
Thank you. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you. We need a roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we have a motion for the resolutions that we remove from the consent agenda. You want each of them separately? Thanks so much. Oh,
Okay.
good.
First resolution is R1 2025-031.
We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. We need a second.
Second.
We need a roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
No.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion
Now
carries.
we do another one.
R1 2025-038.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
No.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
One more?
That's it.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
We're
I'm so
good.
excited. Okay, folks, we move to the resolution
we do
for
47?
consideration. R1 2025-047, the resolution adopting its present need and prospective need for the fourth round of affordable housing obligations. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second on that.
Second.
Good. Roll call.
Councilman DePiero.
Yes.
Councilman Markel.
Yes.
Councilwoman Siegel.
Yes.
Council Vice President Van Zora.
Yes.
Council President Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The administrator's report?
Yep.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. It'll be somewhat brief. Just quick, we had a snowstorm about 2 weeks ago, and it was sort of a little bit of a complicated storm because it started as rain and sleet, followed by snow. So obviously always special thanks to our DPW for brining and salting, brining before the storm, salting during the storm, and then our DPW Parks and MTUD for working overnight to plow and salt. As many of us remember, it went from sort of warm out and then freezing right in the morning. And so I know folks work throughout the night to try and make it as safe as possible for our residents, so I just want to thank them for that. We had a CDBG grant application on here for $166,000 for a road project on Lynx Drive. That would be in addition, if we get it, to the $551,000 state grant. As was mentioned earlier, Applegarth and Prospect Plains would be getting that preemption device, I also do want to mention that we heard from the county that they got their state approval to go out to bid this spring, with hopefully construction beginning soon after. That's a much needed improvement at the Prospect Plains and Applegarth intersection, with direct left turn arrows and other easier improvements for turning. So hopefully that'll get going this spring. Paving has increased in the last 7 years from 1.2 million to 1.7 million, and then we usually do about $1 million between the state grant and our own money. So that's about $2.7 million a year, which is positive, so appreciate that. The solar power crosswalk that was mentioned earlier at the Monroe Rec Center across from Mill Lake, that's a much needed improvement and something that Mary Lang, our recreation director, requested, and that Councilman DePiero, as mentioned earlier, has advocated for, and that will be an important improvement. We did also add a new judge for one additional session once a month, a very experienced attorney, so excited about that. And finally, we did have an application on here for a local rec improvement grant. We've been successful with this DCA grant twice before for our volleyball at the Veterans Park, and for our soon to hopefully be under construction pickleball outside at the Senior Center. And this would be for the community garden playground that hopefully will break ground later this year. So that's my report, Council President.
Thank you. Can I just take that CBDG was a community block development grant?
Yeah,
Thank
Community
you so
Development
much.
Block Grant. I apologize for not an acronym. Also, I didn't have it on my notes here, but I want to thank Mr. Gunkelman for catching that those were similar ordinances. So shout out to him. I didn't notice that the items were similar, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Razumowitz.
Thanks, Council President. Alan already mentioned the projects that I was going to report on, so I have nothing additional to add. Thank you.
So much. Council reports. I will begin this time on my right, extreme right. Mr. Councilman DePiero, please.
Oh, thank you. Prospect Plains with the county, do we have any updates on that project?
I just gave an update. So it was approved by the state. They're planning to go.
No, I mean on the bidding, like the bidding process.
Right, so they're planning to go out for the bid. They were approved by the state. They're planning to go out to bid this spring, and they expect to start construction right after.
Okay, because with the cabinet getting damaged and everything, I think it's a shout out to the county for getting that back together. I mean, I've sent so many emails to put concrete barriers, as you guys have seen them so many times, but it would be so much easier if they just put concrete barriers. After this is like the second time the cabinet got hit, but I just wanted to give them a shout out, the county, for getting that light back into work, because they were talking 2-3 weeks.
Correct.
Madam President, and I apologize, Mr. DePiero. I've been fighting a cold all week, and I'm not feeling too well right now. Can I be excused at this point?
Of course you can be excused.
All right, thank you. I don't mean to interrupt your...
No problem. Feel better. Feel better.
You can't sit anymore.
I thought I could cut it out tonight. I tried, but...
Appreciate your presence for the meeting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Feel
Sorry
better.
to everyone.
Everybody who's
feel
coughing,
better.
take out tissues. This is terrible.
Okay, so Saturday I attended a League of Municipality seminar, and it was basically newly elected and it said experienced elected officials. I attended it 7 years ago at the Meadowlands with Councilman Baskin, and then I just went this past Saturday by myself down to Mount Laurel. It's funny that they had it there, but it happened to be at Mount Laurel. And I got to tell you, it was very well attended. It was about 300 people were there. They had CFOs, they had township clerks and attorneys, and it was very well attended, and I highly recommend it to I know Councilman Markle's going this Saturday, and it's very well. I appreciate the town, sending me there, and I spent about 7 hours, but I'll tell you, it's very educational, and you'll really say it's a really good event. So I want to give a shout out to the league on that. We've received an email from a resident from Stonebridge, in reference to Brickyard Road and Wyckoff Mills Road. And I know, mentioning Councilman Baskin in the past, he would always ask us when we were going to pave Brickyard Road. And, we would always tell him that's our neighboring town, Cranberry, and we can reach out to Cranberry and ask them to work with us in trying to get the potholes in the road paved. So the intersection is really seemed to be a big problem. And we did see some pictures from the resident, and I did go out there and look. And if there's something that we could work hand in hand with our DPW guys along with Cranberry, to help the residents that our residents, their residents use these roads. And we did receive the email, so I just wanted to see maybe we can get that done. The DPW and the MTUD with the snow and the salt, I mean, they work through the holidays and everything. They do a great job. But I had a question. When our governor states state of emergency, I know he did this last snowfall and he didn't have Middlesex County. But when he does that, is there any recourse for us, or is there any funds that we can get from when they say state of emergency? I know Al and I had this conversation, but I wanted, if you can elaborate on if there's any funds or how does it help us when he says state of emergency?
Does it not? I would add to that to clarify that there are varying levels of states of emergency that the governor can declare.
Yeah. I could share with you, Council President, what I shared with you, Council President. I'm not a complete subject matter expert, and others may know more than me, but my understanding from when the governor declares a state of emergency in a snow situation like that, it creates certain powers for him in the state to mobilize resources and do certain things, powers that he may not normally have. It doesn't really do that much for us as a municipality, nor does it do that much for private citizens. So it really doesn't affect us. I know a lot of people often have questions. Sometimes you'll see newspapers do articles, what does a state emergency really mean? I do believe it means more for him and the state police and state OEM for their powers and what he or she as governor can do. It's less for us. Now, sometimes if there's a big enough storm, right, depending on what it is and the amount of damage or inconvenience, sometimes there can be funding through FEMA and other mechanisms, but certainly not in a storm like this one.
Right. No, but I just wanted to ask. I also wanted to mention to the we had a meeting. Council President Allen was there, the mayor, and we had and Kevin also was on the street lighting with JCP&L. So I want to say, we started off with our mayor, and he made a very clear message to JCP&L is like enough is enough, and get our town back on target here with lights, because even if you come out of the complex here, from Schoolhouse Road, the first 10 lights are out right down Schoolhouse Road, right in front of our high school. The lights are out. Okay, and I mean, we just go on and on and on and talk about streetlights. And I suggested that they just give us a monthly report or a weekly report so we can give this back to the public and say, we have a report here of which lights are out, which lights they're working on, and which lights got completed. So, the mayor reached out to me and he said, we're going to have another meeting and with the same crew. And they're going to be more prepared. I mean, because they were not prepared. And I just wanted to thank the mayor for that and our team, because we definitely got the message to them. Not by paying the bill. That $60,000, $70,000 a month is not going to be anything for JCP&L, and that's not going to help us get the lights turned on. So I just wanted to mention that we are trying, and we are going to continue to try with the streetlights. Prineville Road, across from the shopping center, the field is loaded up with garbage again. There's a wood line there, and I know it was snow covered, but now the snow's melting, the weather's in the 40s, and there's quite a bit of garbage in that area again. I had a question, as a lot of our local towns neighboring towns. We're seeing a lot of things change with the new president and everything, and this ICE that's coming around, and they're doing stuff. Does our police department cooperate with ICE?
I think our police department cooperates with everyone, but I don't know the specific answer to the question. I can certainly
I know they're
research
trained.
it.
I know they're trained
Yeah.
for that, to do that. But my question is, do they cooperate with ICE?
That answer.
Again, I think they cooperate with everyone. I can certainly follow up with them, but
Okay.
I'm not aware of ICE being in Monroe, or have never had a conversation with the chief about it, but I can certainly reach out to him.
Well, I know that our sheriff's department does, because they were just in Perth Amboy this week. They went to New Brunswick. They go to local towns, and they don't even announce, like, to their employees where they're going tomorrow. When they come to work, they say, okay, we're going to a town in Middlesex County. So they're getting aggressive, and I just wanted to know with our local police if we're going to cooperate with those programs. During this past month, I was invited to the middle school. It's kind of funny because it's a history. It's the history of Monroe, and the children wanted to interview somebody that went to Monroe schools, and they had a lot of questions. And the teacher, I just wanted to say, Miss Christine Visosky is the teacher, and the children asked me, they're 7th graders, 8th graders, and the questions that they kept asking on and over was, how did the Monroe residents feel with Jamesburg students coming to Monroe? Well, I answered it with this. In 1979 is the year I graduated. In 1980, Jamesburg children came into the Monroe school system. So, but I did tell them the good news was Jamesburg were the champs in soccer in 1979, and we were the champs in 1980 at the soccer. So, but I just wanted to say thank you to all the students that put that together, that program. And they also had a presentation. That's how it started at the high school. And the mayor was joking with me. I was all the way to the left when you came to Monroe, and it was interesting. So that's why they elected to interview with me. And I also, with the schools, I went to Trenton. They had the Division of Education. They had a hearing on the fair funding, and I spent 6-7 hours there listening to the problems. And I did say, you get your 3 or 4 minutes to speak about our problems in our community. And, it's hard to believe that there's 5 towns in the whole state that does not have full-time kindergarten, for the full day, all-day kindergarten. It's just sitting there listening, and Old Bridge is getting hammered, and there's Asbury Park and the towns that are like cutting their staff and really selling schools, and to make an education that we all here had an education and someone paid for it and helped us, and now it's our turn. It was very hard to sit there and listen to the lawyers that came up, and the business administrators and the board members, and I was probably the only councilman there from a town, but I just got to say that the transportation funding is the increase of transportation is through the roof, and they're saying 2% caps, and they're talking about maybe making it 5% or 7%. Without even going out to the voters. The special need, which Monroe has a huge percentage of children special need, and the cost it's not dollar for dollar, and it becomes the taxpayer's expense. And with all of this being said, the panel that sat there was very good. The chairman that ran it, he let everybody talk, and it was supposed to be over at 12. It got over around 3 o'clock. So, but I got to say, it was very educational, and we did have some board members. 2 board members came, and also past president Chris Gerby. She came, and it's just unbelievable to hear all the problems that we have, and then we sit here and we're talking about the state's mandating to us what we have to do, and then when we need money, they just basically closing the doors because the equalization tax is zero, which the Cranberry in our town is. They're saying we're too wealthy, I guess, and all the things that we fight for. And here we are in front of us again, 2025, affordable housing. So I just wanted to say, we need to continue that fight. I mean, hopefully they come back with the formula, and then the Board of Ed has to put their budget together. It's just very short window and time, just like we have with the affordable. So it's like hurry up, rush, rush, rush. And then, there's no rush after they say, hurry up, rush, rush, rush. And the final thing I wanted to say, I spent a couple visits to our rec center about the pickleball, and we all was here on January 6th, and we had some residents come about pickleball. I don't know anything about pickleball, or I didn't know that much about it, but I'm starting to learn a little bit more. They're trying to get me to play. But then my wife will never see me. So the problem with that is it's just a growing sport, and they're playing nice at the rec center, and they need the space. And Mary and the staff is working with them. And I've been there. I went there today again, and I got to say it's a good group of people that are throughout the community, and it becomes a social. Good time, and they're dedicated. I mean, every time I go there, I see same people, and more, and more. It's growing. So I just want to thank our administration and also our residents that are making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
Markel. Councilman DePiero took up my time, so I'm going home. Anyway, I'm going to be short and sweet. I just wanted to thank all the people that worked on the affordable housing to come up with the numbers and explain to us, council people and people out here, exactly how it works. I think they cleared up a lot tonight. I know they cleared up a lot with me with the new legislation and the new rules. The only thing else I would like to say tonight is I'm on the Commission for Aging, which I hope has nothing to do with my age, but it might. But and that with the aging, we deal with the senior community, and our main concern is the senior center. And naturally, we have such a large senior community here, they're inundated with people all the time. I just want to give you some numbers. I just want you to grasp the numbers that our senior community dealt with in 2024. They had 87,000 registrations for programs in 2024. To me, that's mind-boggling. 87,000 people registered for programs. They had 1,200 new members in 2024. They have a total of over 9,000 members of our senior center right now, which is, to me, outrageous. Give you an idea, the transportation department for the senior center transported over 17,000 seniors last year. 6,300 were for medical reasons, and they did over 5,000 trips. I mean, that's quite an undertaking for these people there. Besides that, our Betty Schneider Food Pantry is one of the best pantries in Middlesex County, if not the state. On the website, by the way, I want to just announce that on the senior center website, they're going to post every month what they're in need of. So if they got enough canned Campbell's soup, I'll tell you that right now. So if you go on the website, please look. They're looking to, I think I saw, believe it or not, they want boxed potatoes. And I forgot what the other issue, but there's two things on there right now. Go on the website, see what they need and what they're short of. Don't bring Campbell's soup right now. coffee is always wanted. That's one thing I know they always need. I think that's about all I'd want to say is just when you go to the senior center, any seniors that are watching or here that go there, thank them. Thank them. They try their best. They're nice to everybody. I'm sure they get some contentious people up there. Not that I'm a senior that I get that way ever, but just understand they're fighting a battle all the time with 87,000 people signing up. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Councilwoman Siegel, please.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everyone. First, I want to wish everyone who's celebrating the Chinese New Year, Happy Lunar New Year to you all. I do want to do a quick thank you. As Mr. Weinberg said, with our snowstorms, DPW does a tremendous amount of work cleaning up our town. And I know during the past two snowstorms, I had received some community members reaching out to me saying that they needed the things weren't plowed the right way. And it's amazing to see how quickly the response is from DPW to go back out there and clean up things and make it more safer for our residents. And I know I received several compliments, which I did share and pass along with DPW. So I do want to thank them too for their responsiveness of really making sure things are cleaned up and safe for our community members. I do want to give a quick update on our Youth Advisory Commission. The students last month had opportunity to meet with Mayor Delina. They got to learn a little bit about his role as the mayor of our town. And I think I've shared in the past, our students, what they're charged to do is to give back to the community in some way. So their project this year is they are going to be working with some of our boards and commissions, and they're going to learn about the boards and commissions, but also try to make some kind of impact and bring a youth perspective to those boards and commissions. So we look forward to hearing from them. But I also have to give a big thank you to Kyle Johansson back there. He is our advisor for the commission, and he has about 20 students that he gets many emails. He has to corral them together, and he's a great mentor to them and really guiding them through this process and the project. So thank you, Kyle. And I did want to put a reminder again out about the community safety tips being sponsored by our police department. They discuss current crime trends, scams, and ways to keep yourself safe. Every year this presentation is new and different, or as many times as they offer it, so I highly recommend to add this to your calendar. It's going to be at the Monroe Township Library on Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. And that's my update.
Thank you. I will be brief. I wanted to mention two things. One, this past week was Holocaust Remembrance Day, and one of the local temples hosted at their service. They had people who had survivors there that evening, a woman who was on a death march, and several of them, and it's pretty amazing to see them, and they live in town. But the interesting thing they did was to do some research on those in New Jersey who were part of the resistance movement during World War II, and they had information about a half a dozen people who came here after the war and survived and lived. And it was a moving and beautiful service, and I was really glad to be there. Going back just very quickly to what you were saying about immigration, one of the points was made to me that if indeed you are not a citizen of our country, please carry your papers with you, so that if you have a green card or other information, it should be in your pocket or in your wallet, because that way you will not be disturbed. This was told to me by people who work at food banks and have seen an increase in the observation of people from ICE coming in, immigration, I don't know what the acronym stands for, it's always a problem for me. But that's what they recommended, that if I were in a foreign country, I would have my passport with me. I wouldn't presume that there would never be someone asking for my citizenship status. I thought it was a good idea, and in a very positive vein of what we can think of. I would very much think that we all would like to get to the public comment section. It's been a lengthy meeting, so I would like a motion to open the public comment section, please.
Motion.
Thank you. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Please come to the mic. giving us your name and address, please. And remember, the time limit is 5 minutes.
Barbara Levine, 38 Timber Hill Drive. I am the board president of the HOA at Stonebridge. Good evening, and I appreciate this chance to talk before the council. Thank you. I'm here to address the nurses' ordinance that was tabled in your July meeting 2024. In 2006, when this ordinance was passed, it showed sound judgment on the part of the town council, as there were no emergency services in Zone 2 where Stonebridge was under construction. That has changed significantly. There's a firehouse, there are EMT services right on Halsey Reed Road. There's an urgent care facility in the Gables, and there are others located on Applegarth Road. Yet this ordinance remains in place. Stonebridge is the only 55-plus community in Monroe affected by this ordinance and mandated to have nursing services with an RN 24 hours a day. This places Stonebridge in a situation unlike the other 14 55-plus communities. The other communities have the option of deciding if they want nursing services at all. They have the option of deciding daily hours. They have the option of deciding whether to hire an RN or some other type of medical care person. Stonebridge has no options. To be clear, if this ordinance was removed tonight, there would be no change to the current 24/7 coverage with an RN at Stonebridge. However, it would allow the residents of Stonebridge the opportunity to vote on any possible changes. This vote would require a 67% approval from the community, which is a high bar to achieve. As it currently stands, Stonebridge cannot change the nursing hours. Stonebridge cannot consider an alternative to an RN for 24 hours a day, perhaps during the midnight to 7 a.m. shift. Stonebridge has budgeted $442,636 for nursing services for the fiscal year of 2025. That's roughly $468 per home. This equates to millions of dollars over the years. No other 55-plus community has this major expense yearly. Last summer, we surveyed the community. More than 50% of the residents, 446 to 391, voted that they would like the ordinance removed. Therefore, we ask the town council to put the ordinance back on the agenda and vote to remove the mandate on Stonebridge. We ask to be on equal footing with the other communities in Monroe. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we can't have a dueling match here, so somebody walk faster, someone walk slower, and we can just go on. Your name and address for our records, please.
Catherine Hunt, can you hear me?
No, so a little louder, Catherine, please.
Sorry about that. Catherine Hunt, 121 Lowell Lane in Monroe Township. It's Rossmore. And thank you all. You've had a wonderful meeting. It's been very interesting. And I would like to call your attention to a packet that you may have. Can you hear me?
They haven't received it yet. I gave it to the clerk to distribute to them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, the purpose is to requests that Monroe Township will pass a resolution in support of the New Jersey Climate Superfund Act in order to offset the financial burdens of climate change on Monroe Township. The New Jersey legislature is already considering a bill, Senate Bill 3545 and Assembly Bill 4696, called the Climate Superfund Act, and it would make the largest fossil fuel corporations pay for the damages caused by climate change in New Jersey. The bill was voted out of the Senate Environment and Energy Committee on December 12th. It is modeled after similar legislation passed in New York and Vermont. The bill applies the logic of the original Superfund Act, which requires polluters to pay to clean up their contaminated sites, and applies that logic to the climate crisis. No estimates are available for New Jersey yet, but New York's version would raise up to $3 billion of revenue annually for the next 25 years. And it's not unreasonable to estimate that New Jersey could receive about $2 billion annually. And where that gets to Monroe is that under this act, municipalities will be able to recover costs for climate change adaptation projects, which would include many things, including flood protection projects and flood remediation projects. I think we all remember we had a pretty big flood here, and I even still have a picture of a lifeboat going down one of the streets in Rossmore. People were pulled out of their first floor apartments up through the window because they couldn't get out their doors. So that caused, of course, a lot of problems for us, but also other communities, other municipalities had similar situations. And this is a situation where money exits the municipality to take care of issues. In this case, with this act, money would enter the municipality to help pay for such incidents. The costs of climate change are remediation and adaptation are increasing every year and are estimated to reach 1/3 of global GDP by 2100. There's no governmental organization that could afford such costs, and the impacts will be devastating. So this is a request that you take a look. I did not include the bill because it is many pages long, but it's easily accessible on njleg.gov. So you can see what we could do with this. We would apply the same way as we apply now for funds from the state. So the method is there already. And I think I'll yield to somebody else who could explain how that's done and how we could apply this to our own experience here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address us, please come forward.
George Gunkelman, 5 Kelly Court, Monroe. Amongst the ordinance for first reading, 004 was to about bonding for some work on in the township for sidewalks and whatnot. Typically, when we have small projects go through planning and zoning, if sometimes the sidewalks are exempted, and typically the developer or the builder contributes to a sidewalk fund, is there no money in that fund available for this activity that's presented here?
Mr. Weinberg? I know we have.
So I don't have the exact amount in the sidewalk fund here. The vast majority of this 1.7 million is really tied to road paving. I know it says sidewalk. Sometimes there is some sidewalk involved in it, but the 95% and 97% is road paving. If that helps answer.
Oh, okay. I don't want to beat up on our much beat up topic of street lightings, but when we talk to them, I really would like this for us to make a case that all replacements be done with LED, just because the life is longer and their ability to get back and do it a second time seems to be greatly impaired.
That is part of the discussion.
Okay, it wasn't mentioned earlier in.
But it was
some
not, it
report
was,
about,
yeah.
All good. Getting back to the affordable housing thing, I just, it's a process. The consultant did a tremendous job, although it's hard for lay people to absorb her experience in one go. I mean, she's obviously over the top with it, and it's hard to keep up. But on our local level, I would just like to say that I would hope that we can look to solutions by the township more in line with what the township did with veterans housing than these big ratios of 4-to-1 or whatever that are the developer's solution or whatever they were called at different times. And I hope when we start to look at how we're going to fill our needs, we'll look at that. I mean, of all the things we bond, I would be more comfortable bonding stuff like that and have the overall number of new construction be reduced, because that goes back to the issue that was talked about when Councilman DePiero mentioned we don't have kindergarten, a full-day kindergarten in Monroe. We struggle to get funding for our schools. We don't need to have more burden on our schools until we get caught up with these other needs like all-day kindergarten, for example, and whatnot. So if we can keep the overall number of new units down and still meet our requirement or commitment to the state for affordable housing, I think it's in the interest of the town. Thank you.
Anyone else? Please, sir, your name and address for the records.
Adam Elias, 93 Old Church Road. I want to revisit also the affordable housing mandate. So during Mr. DePiero's questions, I know one of the questions he asked was how zoning would be affected. And I believe the planner said that zoning would absolutely have no ability really to, it would be irrelevant effectively for any kind of affordable housing project. So I was hoping to kind of get some clarity on that, because, I think for a lot of people in the public who are have objections when they see warehouses getting built next to, communities, or McDonald's getting built next to senior communities, people don't really understand. I think it gives a lot of context. It's a very important detail as to why these things may happen if zoning is really kind of set aside. So would it be possible if I could get some clarification on what it means when they say they have to do it? Who's they? Who has to actually approve it? Where does zoning fall in? Is it the council that gets to overrule the zoning board? I just really want to understand, and I think the public could really benefit from understanding how zoning is impacted by the affordable housing mandate.
Aren't you lucky our expert didn't leave?
I'm so happy.
Do you mind if I take a?
Yeah, you want to go first and then?
And then, Kevin, you want to comment as well?
Well, the hardest part will be getting this on.
It's
Oh,
on.
you can hear me? Good. Sorry about that.
It's always a surprise.
So I think as Ms. Beam explained, the housing element and fair share plan, which sets out your compliance mechanisms, is wholly within the township's control. You're going to select what projects are going to get you, are going to satisfy that prospective need number. So in crafting that, you can identify the parcels you want to develop. I think the suggestion that zoning doesn't matter is if you don't provide mechanisms to get to your number, a builder could come in down the road and force you to change your zoning. part of this process is if you don't have enough land or you can't fulfill your prospective need number by following the zoning that's already in place, you have an obligation at a certain point to create an overlay that creates a new type of a new overlay zone to make that project possible. So you still have a lot of control, but at the end of the day, if things get tight, you have to find a way to make projects possible so that you can fulfill your prospective need number.
Okay.
So there's still a lot of control, but at the end of the day, if things get tight, you have to sort of consider your options. But I'm certainly going to look to Kevin and Alan to speak a little further.
No, that was perfect. And just to give some historical example to that you may be able to see right now is that in the last round, and I know this round the process is very different, but in terms of the township's obligation to change zoning to allow for affordable housing, this has come up for many years, not just in Monroe, but in a lot of towns. So if you're down on Route 33, across 33 from Applegarth Road behind the Wawa, and this is just one example that comes to mind, is Monroe Place and Monroe Lofts. That was zoned commercial. But when we had to fulfill an affordable housing obligation during round 3, that developer was willing to and looking to place affordable housing in that location, and the underlying zoning was not a consideration to not put affordable housing there, meaning we couldn't say, sorry, that's commercial zoning, so that's not going to be included, because as part of the affordable housing process, the Township Council had to change that zoning from highway development to residential with the density that would allow for those 150 units, 30 of which were affordable units. So that's just one example of how that has played out in Monroe.
So I'm assuming that decision is, you reflect on the master plan when you make that decision, right?
So we have the township, between the planning board and the council, has to, as Christopher and Jen mentioned, amend the housing element and fair share plan of the master plan, which would reflect how we reach that 378 credits, whatever number of units that ends up being. And then if zoning changes have to take place, meaning moving from a commercial to a residential zone, or moving from an R30 to something that has higher density, the council would have to take that up. Only the council is authorized to change the zoning ordinance.
Yeah, I just asked because I've always been, trying to see why there's not more commercial development in Monroe, and I'm wondering if there's some kind of a priority system as far as what parts get rezoned to accommodate the obligation. That's really more of a general curiosity that I'm having.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
Anyone
also
else?
want to echo the DPW did a fantastic job. My street always gets neglected when it snows, and I think I heard the trucks coming down my street before it even 10 minutes into the snowstorm, so that was awesome. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council, please come forward now. Please state your name and address for our records.
Hi, my name is Alan Christopher Gould. I'm a resident at 518B Hazen Road in Monroe Township. Okay. And I'm here, well, first of all, to let you know that I am a retired engineer from that worked at the dam safety and flood engineering at the DEP, and I want to come in here, but I'm not representing DEP, I'm representing myself at this meeting as a resident, and want to include, let you know that I endorse and encourage you, the members here to vote for or approve a resolution on the Climate Superfund Act in there that I think is a very well worthwhile system. And I can give you some, at least give you some general organization of how DEP works, that sort of thing, and what's in place. I just want to mention some of the things. Of course, I'm mostly familiar with dam safety and flood control. but I am also familiar with land use. We worked with them quite a bit there. And want to say that it's, this is a good area to place this responsibility for this Climate Superfund Act, in that, like, land use has a permit system that's in place already and can handle, and matter of fact, one of the things is they have a 60-day turnaround where they have to reply back, give a response in there. So that's DEP, once again, is a good place to put this responsibility in. And also that most of our, I know that our, for flood engineering, that we provide grants too. So the system is their system is looking to provide grants to municipalities and such. So that would still be a good area, just to let you know how it operates there. And if you have any questions on that,
Thank you.
try to answer best I can.
I think not, but we thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay. And that's it.
Thank you. Ma'am?
My name is Karen Chen. I live at 4 Ashley Court. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Happy Lunar New Year, by the way, to those who celebrate. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Monroe Township Recreation Center pickleball players. We would like to update you on what has transpired since our last meeting and report on what we have achieved and hope to seamlessly achieve in the future. Thanks to advice, guidance, and interventions by town council members, administration, as well as Norman Olinsky, who's the adult communities representative for the Recreation Advisory Board. And his business card, by the way, says he's an all-around nice guy. We have made progress toward our goals. He is, yeah. Starting this past Monday, we now have access to one additional pickleball court when the gym space is not being used by table tennis. This has helped alleviate some of the waiting time between games, and we have been assured that this is a starting point. As the demand for pickleball continues to grow, we still hope to have access to other court space when it is not being used by table tennis. In the future, we hope to work closely with the Recreation Advisory Board members and the Recreation Center staff for an amicable resolution toward achieving our goals. We're optimistic that open communication between ourselves and recreation staff will continue and that the resources can be expanded further to support the great demand for this activity. We would like to thank all involved in directing and supporting us in this endeavor, and we appreciate being heard.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address us, please come forward.
Shell Arminio, 9 Nathaniel Street. Resolution R12025-029 regarding the Piazza Affordable Housing as an administrator for Monroe's Affordable Housing. It says that there is an agreement with Piazza. Is that a contract with them, an annual contract?
Yes, we do.
And does that contract stipulate what the relationship is between Monroe and our expectations and their obligations to the town?
Yeah, my understanding, and I'll defer to Tanya if I get it wrong, but it's an annual contract. It is paid for, I believe, through the developer-funded trust fund that was mentioned earlier several times, and it allows us to work with them to make sure that we're properly implementing our program in accordance with the requirements.
So is it a contract with them?
Contract.
Yes, it is a contract.
We have.
Okay. And does that contract stipulate their obligations?
What do you mean by obligation?
Well, I don't know, because I don't have the contract,
Well,
but
I'm
their
just- what are you
obligations of
asking?
how many people they're supposed to place, how is it done? I know it's supposed to be a lottery, is that still?
No.
You're off. You're not on. Sorry.
Not on, Tanya.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It's not stipulated those specifics within the contract. It is your straightforward monetary contracts, approving them for the year as our administrative agent.
But
That's
it doesn't say what they administrate or
I mean, it
or what
gives
they do?
It doesn't have a breakdown in there. It doesn't go into specifics with the lottery system or anything like that.
Does Monroe get a report, either annually, monthly, semi-annually, as to how many people they've placed, what they've placed, the low or moderate
Let
income
Tanya
people?
answer that. She's the
Well, I wanted to
Yes.
give you the details of what I'm looking for.
Yes, at my request or administration's request, they provide a report. I think the last update that I received from them was probably in November, maybe even October. I can reach out tomorrow to both Frank and Kathy for an updated report.
Okay, and
from
that would
point
be
on.
a public record, correct? As well as the contract would be?
Sure.
Everything.
Okay, I would like to make I know that it's a lottery, which still is to me a little weird because you can, if I were in need of that type of housing and I put in an application, I could be waiting for years, and I could maybe not even get a lottery, my name pulled out of lottery, and someone who puts in their name a week ago could possibly get an affordable housing unit. I'm not sure that that's the best way to solve our.
Is that accurate? Please. That someone who just put their name on gets pulled? and
So we've gone through this several
Yes,
times.
but this is for the record, please.
No, and I understand that. I think Piazza would be the best to explain how their lottery system works. They're the administrative agent for the township. Those who fill out an application and submit it, once they are determined what their income is and where they fall within that, yes, they're placed within the lottery. When that random lottery happens, if they are pulled from it, depending upon, they could be in it short-term, long-term, then they are offered a final application which goes through another approval process.
Right. And I know of people who have not been housed based on their application to Piazza. So it concerns me. And a few months ago, you celebrated and gave an award to Ms. Reisner, I think, Sue Reiser. And she has appealed to the Affordable Housing Committee and the commission, because I was there when she was doing it, that there are a number of special needs adults that really could use some housing, and I don't know if they've ever been placed on that. So it's not a perfect system, and this big, need for affordable housing, I believe, does exist, but we really need to place these people who are in the most need and get them housing. So I don't know what we could do with our contracts with administrators like Piazza, but things might need to be tweaked to get the people really in need and I'll reach out to Sue Reiser again, because I know it was a concern of hers. Either adult children that she works with, her own, have not had housing where they could benefit from.
I would just add, if I could, Council
Please.
President, that the process is very descriptive by the state in terms of, the eligibility and the process. So we can certainly go through that again. And it is project-based, so there's a list every time something opens. A new development may not open for a year or 2 years. There's a list for that project. In terms of how people qualify and who qualifies, it is very detailed and prescriptive by the state. It's not a criteria that we make up here at the township. So if someone qualifies or doesn't qualify for it, it's not a Monroe decision. It's a decision that's really determined, I believe, probably through the legislature and the guidance from DCA.
Yeah,
so we could talk about that further. I just want to say it's not something we determine here at Monroe.
It's not the qualification so much, it's the placement. That is a concern to me. I mean, yes, the qualifications are well spelled out,
Right.
but people who are qualified have not been placed, and some people are really, truly in need. And like I said, Sue was certainly worth having been recognized and everything, but I'm sure there are still people that she would like to have acknowledged and placed in housing.
To your point, and we can research this through legal, we can find out if there's such a thing as a special needs preference. I just don't know the answer sitting right here. But if there's not a preference, like a veteran's preference, it's supposed to be, and it is, completely random. But we can research whether there's such a thing as a special needs preference.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone
And
else?
by the way, thank you for letting me know, but just because I asked the same question again, one, it's for public purposes, and two, it's to place things on the record. I am not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to be informed, and I think the public should be informed as well.
I couldn't
So I would just
agree.
like the courtesy.
I couldn't
of-
agree with you 100%. You know how I feel about transparency. I have no problem with you asking questions. I've provided answers. If I could provide more
Absol-
answers to you, I will be more than happy to do that, and
Absolutely.
you know that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address us, please come forward. Name and address for our records, please.
My name's Donald Wolf, and I'm just going to asking for your support, the Climate Superfund Act. I live over in Applegate Avenue, and next to my block is Forest Park. And if you understand, back in 2011, my entire neighborhood was wiped out by Hurricane Irene. The town of Monroe at the time provided funds that we could rebuild. But in the future, we get water damage again in our homes, in our neighborhood. Somebody's got to pay for it. Now, they're saying that New York estimates they'll get $3 billion a year for the fund, and New Jersey thinks they get $2 billion a year for the fund. Now, just so you know, like, one of the things that comes up is, where's Exxon going to pay for this? Or one of the other large oil companies. Last quarter, $8.1 million was a total profit after expenses, just one quarter, for one oil company. So I'm just asking for you to support this when it comes up for a vote. Okay?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else wishing to address us, please come forward now. I'm seeing and hearing none. I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
May I have a second on that?
Second.
Oh, I closed, I'm
Close.
sorry.
Close.
We're closing the public portion. I got a little tired. Thank you so much.
We heard what you
All in
didn't say.
favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Now,
We're moving.
I just wanted to make one comment. What the gentleman just said about Applegate Avenue, and,
But I
you know,
need to close this first before we adjourn.
we did close it.
Sorry, now you can, yes,
Right.
sorry.
So I just wanted to say that our fire company goes out there all the time. You know, our MTUD and fire companies, and go out to these Applegate and Forest Park. They go out with pumps around, you know, DPW around the clock when we do have storms like Sandy and the rest of the storms. Our fire company goes out there, puts all these pumps out. And in the past, I think the gentleman was referring to, the town did purchase, I believe, 12 parcels that were, the houses were destroyed and the town just purchased the land. So, you know, I'm sure that if it comes to this, to us, I'm sure that we'll support to help our residents. And thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
May we have a second?
Second.
Oh, goody, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
We're
for
adjourned.
attending
It's
tonight.
9:12.